What if the difference between drowning and floating was not what happened to you, but the lens through which you chose to see it? Not toxic positivity, not denial, not pretending the hard things were not hard, but something quieter, something more sustainable, a slight reframe. My guest today has lived a life that, by most measures, would justify bitterness, a life that looked beautiful from the outside and felt like a cage from within. And yet, she does not describe herself as a victim. She does not want your sympathy. What she wants is to hand you a different pair of glasses because she believes, and after speaking with her, so do I, that the difference between getting lost in the trenches and finding your way back to the light is not willpower or strength or even faith alone. It is staying curious, remaining open, and trusting that the life you appear to be losing may never have been the life meant for you. Welcome to Beyond the Glass Slipper, the podcast where we explore what it means to redefine aging, reframe life, and embrace our encore years with intention, purpose, and an understanding of the importance of mental health and cognitive wellness. I'm your host, Cindy, and today's conversation is one I believe will stay with you long after you finish listening, because it is not about what one woman endured. It is about how she chose to see it and what that slight shift in perspective made possible. Today's guest is photographer Debbie Davila, a woman who believes that life is a series of costume changes and that some of our most beautiful chapters begin when we stop looking backward and become curious about what is next. As a young woman, Debbie's life was full of travel and adventure. She attended school in Sweden. She studied ballet, later danced flamingo, and pursued creative work as both an actress and photographer. Life took unexpected turns. There were years when Debbie wore a hard hat and showed up at an engineering site while holding a family together through challenges few could see. From the outside, life appeared beautiful. On the inside, there were times when she felt confined, as though she were living in a cage. What carried her through was not resilience in the way we typically use that word. It was something more foundational, a quiet courage and an unshakable sense of wonder. She has never been willing to surrender. So she left that life, she took her 3 children, and she moved to Costa Rica. Later, she returned to the United States, where she rebuilt her photography business and, more importantly, herself and her family. Today, Debbie is approaching 60, recently remarried, traveling, scuba diving, continuing to dance flamingo, and living a life she describes as freer than ever before. She does not define herself by what she endured. She defines herself by how she chose to see it. Debbie, welcome to Beyond the Glass Slipper. I am so glad you are here.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
I'm going to dive right in. Most who live their lives through what you lived through come out the other side more hardened or shattered. You came out curious, or actually, I think you were always curious from what you shared. Where does that come from? Was it always in you, or did you have to build it?
It's an interesting question because honestly, I don't think I built it. I think I was born that way. So I think I've had to protect it, if anything. Through life, curiosity has always been in me. Even as a little girl, I was fascinated by the world around me. I would round up all the kids in the neighborhood and we would go looking for pirate treasure, ghost in the cemetery, reading about the Bermuda Triangle, UFOs, the pyramids of Egypt, mummies, ancient civilizations. And I was the kid that all the other kids would dare to jump on the biggest ramp they would build. And I'm like, I'll do it, because I was always a daredevil. I've always wanted to know what was around the next corner. And I think that little girl never really disappeared. Maybe she just changed costumes in a way. I've seen people get hurt and get smaller, more cynical. I don't want to be that. And I understand why people do, but I've never wanted that to become my personality.
From what I've learned in the short period of time of getting to know you, I would have to say that you absolutely still have that childlike wonder which is so fabulous because you can become very hardened and it may
Mhm.
not be as simple as a choice. What are your thoughts, Debbie?
I think that we choose a perspective we have about what happens to us, or you don't want to be defined by that. You never want your pain to become your personality, or that the worst things that have happened to you, that they become the most interesting things about you, because life is too beautiful to be defined as like your most painful points, or to fear that fear will become your inheritance. Life is fun and beautiful and funny. And I think it's what you identify with. Like, you want to focus on those things instead.
There's a specific version of your life which I think a lot of women would have had major difficulty walking away from, if you don't mind me sharing with the audience. I mean, it was the large home and the country club lifestyle and the staff with the chef and the nanny. I'm sure you look like you had it all. And what was the moment you realized, or maybe a series of moments you realized, that the outside picture and the inside experience were two completely different things? And what gave you the courage to act on leaving this wonderland that it looked like?
The fact that it was like a dangerous situation, and sometimes we need to act, and just it's time to step up and be courageous and bold. Comfortable is not always the best thing. And it really wasn't that comfortable. A lot of people would think, wow, I wanted to be true to myself. And as a mom, looking out for the kids. So I think that's, you have to do what you have to do. It's time for a costume change. I used to think that I could save everyone.
Okay.
You realize that sometimes they're drowning you, or you're going down with that ship. So
Sometimes people find comfort in what is familiar and they don't want to
mm,
make a big change because they're
right,
not sure exactly what's
right.
going to come next. So that took an enormous amount of courage. But I feel like you've always had that courage inside of you. Something's got to be better for you and your children. Internally, what went on to nudge you to say, that's it, I'm done?
Well, you said something that's very interesting, which is true, is that sometimes you stay in things that are familiar, even though they're not necessarily comfortable. And I think that for me, I was brought up like that. I had a very strict upbringing. I had a very difficult mother and father, actually, both of them. And so I was used to having to tough things out. They weren't people that were there to say, "Oh, honey," So I think that it made me a tough cookie. I think I'm a tough cookie since I was a little kid. Also the oldest, and my siblings always came running to me. So I was always fixing situations or sticking up for them when they were getting bullied. So I think that carried over into this. You kind of marry someone that's got issues, and I mean, at least for me. And I was just so tired of fixing everything, because I tend to do that and not complain, and I could take this on. But after having a conversation with his therapist, who actually called me into, Deb, I want you to come in. I'm like, I have no problems, but you need to come in. It hit me like a ton of bricks. You know what? You're going to do this for the rest of your life. If you don't change this, you don't deserve it. It was like an awakening, I should say, that we deserve to be happy. Not that I wasn't, but you shouldn't be suffering at others' expense all the time. Like, you don't need to put yourself on the back burner all the time. That's not fair. And
And yeah, not healthy either for anybody.
no, no. And so I was so used to that. And it's been so hard because I tend to move in that direction. Like, I won't say anything, even though I might be in pain or whatever, because I've got to be a tough cookie. I was brought up that way. You can't cry. If you fall, get yourself up, dust yourself off. So I think that's really like, that's
Right.
dysfunctional.
What was that light switch that went on and said, "Oh, wait a minute, this can't continue to go this
Yeah,
way?"
was
And
that I just realized how horrible it was to live to nobody knew what was going on. That was the worst part, like friends, family, nobody, because I had to hold this whole entire thing together. And I just said, this is so unhealthy for the kids and for myself, and it's so stressful. I mean, I look back, I don't even know how I did it. I'm not an engineer. And
right.
so, and I acted like one. I had to, because I actually ended up owning the company because he couldn't handle having it in his name. So what made me change was just realizing through the help of this therapist saying, you got to cut the pattern, you have to stop. And it doesn't matter if everything falls. It did. It's being honest with yourself too. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. But I think as women, we do that sometimes is just go with the flow and just be nice. Don't complain. Yeah. That's not
Exactly.
fair.
So the therapist was instrumental in, would you say that he helped you open your eyes to see things, or do you feel as though you were seeing things and he just gave you that little nudge?
I think he opened my eyes because honestly, I'd never told anybody. And it's interesting how if you don't tell anyone something, it's like it didn't happen, right? Because you're not even hearing yourself say it. So he asked me, he says, how does it feel to hear yourself say what you just told me? Because I told him all kinds of stuff. And I said, honestly, shocking. And he says, if you heard somebody else say that, what would you say to them? I'd be like, get out. Are you crazy? Or I would think I was watching some kind of John Wick movie because it was really crazy. And he said, well, it's you saying it. It's not anybody else. It's you. So, give yourself that advice and take it. But really, I was kind of shocked to hear myself say it. It kind of solidified it, made it like, wow, this is real. It's not a bad nightmare. It's really
It's really,
real.
yeah.
So, and it was like a rude awakening. And I'm like, all right, Deb, you got to change this. We got to switch lanes and don't look back. But that takes courage and it's difficult. There's so many moving parts, but you
Yeah.
just have to do it.
Yeah, for sure. When we spoke and you shared your story with me,
Mhm.
you told me that many of your friends were surprised. Well, first of all, they had no idea because you were keeping all of this to yourself,
Yeah.
but also the fact that they were amazed that you were going to give all of the material things up to make you in effect you lost everything by walking out, and your friends were amazed by that. Are you still today friendly with any of those people? Do you ever hear from any of those people? How were they in the transition when you were leaving?
Well, I'll say this, that a majority of them are still my friends. They were like the real girlfriends. They were kind of shocked because they're used to that lifestyle. They're like, what are you going to do? Oh my gosh, Debbie, are you on something? I'm like, no. And so I would say that's when you see your real friends. So my real true friends, and they're still friends to this day. They check in on me and how are you doing? How's everything? They think my
Yeah.
life is like so adventurous. They love that. And I see them sometimes, like if they fly into Florida. But by the same token, there were the people that you realize were never your friends. And the horrible things that they did, then you realize that there's so many envious people and they're happy that all this horrible stuff happened.
Oh,
So, and I was kind of shocked. I'm like, wow, I really thought that was my friend or this one or that. Everybody's different. And that's where I remember my father saying to me, don't trust anybody. People are horrible. And I'm like, no, Dad, everybody's different. You can't say that. I love my friends and I love making new friends. So I will usually say to someone I meet, I'm like, will you be my friend?
yeah.
And they always laugh. And even my husband's like, Debbie, that's so childish to say that. I'm like, no, I mean it. If I ask somebody to be my friend, I treasure my friends. They're like pearls to me. And so and bad apples don't count. And move on. You got to forgive them and move on. You can't like hold that stuff in. It does turn into bitterness. So I do stay in touch with quite a few of my old friends.
You had a little bit of a support system,
Yeah.
some people you can count on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, Debbie, you have such a story. And the short time that I've known you, I've never seen you as bitter. It's clear that you do not see yourself as a victim. That framing seems to matter to you very much.
Mhm.
Why is that?
I think it's whatever you believe about yourself is true. So if you see yourself as a victim, for me, my take on it, it's like you're downtrodden, you're a poor mothing person, and it's very important not to see yourself in that light because in reality, you're not. Yes, we all survive things. Everybody goes through things, but we're tough cookies. Like, I think we should see ourselves as victors kind of, but even though victor sounds like we won a war or something, that was something, it just happened, a bump in the road, and you got to keep going. I'm not into but I also don't like pity. Like, I don't want anybody to say, oh, poor thing, because Now it's so funny because that will make me cry. Like, so if somebody comes over and says, I'm so sorry, I'll start crying. And I hate that. When you see yourself as a victim, I almost feel like it could happen again because you're kind of like in that pattern.
Of self-fulfilling prophecy almost. Just,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. You're
like getting
always,
can't get out of that loop. Poor me, poor me.
yeah, and bad things happen. You kind of pull it towards you. More of those things will happen. The next guy you meet will be the same thing or whatever situation. I think move on. I have always, because I do have friends that are, they're always on the pity pot. It's a bad energy.
What would you say to a woman who is holding on to that identity?
I think it's very important to forgive yourself and forgive whatever situation and leave it in the past. Because until you do, I think that you're always going to be that person or that persona. It's important to move on because I feel that it will haunt you if you don't. Like my ex, he would go to all these meetings for addiction. And they always start their meetings with, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I am a fill in the blank. You're either a drug addict or an alcoholic. And I've always thought that was so negative. I even told him that. I'm like, that, why do you guys say that? You're not now because that was you in the past. Become a new person. You're a new person every day. You wake up, you're a new person. Your past does not say who you are today.
Shouldn't define you.
It shouldn't
Yeah.
define you. And your past does not equal your future. It's a fresh new day every day. So I think I would say to that person is, yes, you came through a lot. See yourself as a warrior or somebody, a victim is, I see it as a very weak personification of a person where if you're just thinking, okay, it's something that happened. Now moving on. Today's a whole new day and just leave it in the past. I think those things carry into your present.
Very interesting. I'm curious, how did your husband react to that reframing? Was he
Yeah.
open to
Yeah,
it?
he said to me, well, Deb, we always have to remember where we came from because otherwise we'll go back there. And I don't know, it works because it works for quite a few people and then it doesn't work for some. But I don't know. I almost feel like we're a new person. And like coming from scripture, like you're a new person in Christ, it always says that you're leaving the old man behind, becoming this new person once you have this psychic change. And I feel that if you're with anything, you could do that. You really could say, I'm
Right.
a new person now. I'm not that person. And we really are capable of changing. It takes time to implement becoming a new person because, old habits die hard. So you have to establish new habits. And it's never easy, but it's doable. Everything's doable.
Right. From a neuroscience standpoint, it proves we can reprogram ourselves, change our perspective. It takes time, it takes
Mhm.
persistence, and
Yeah,
consistency in our lives, but it is
right.
possible to make change. And you're living proof that you can make change. And sometimes
Mhm.
it does come down to our perspective on things and our
Right.
point of view. I applaud you for everything that you've done and how you live your life. It's so encouraging. I know that you have 3 children. And sometimes we're hoping that by being a role model with how you see life through this positive lens, is that something that you feel as though your children have gone down that positive route with you?
Yes, I think daughters always like to resist whatever you say to them. Like moms don't know anything, but I think they've come around and they are always, when they're feeling blah or whatever, they always call me. They're like, Mom, what do you think I should do? It's funny because now they're asking for advice. So yeah, I,
Great.
I feel that it does. And Jonathan is easier. My son, he doesn't like it when I get annoyed at something because we're all human. I get mad. Remember you said blah, 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 fill in the blank. I'm like, yeah, I know. I said that. But I think it does. It does. They see it. So
Right.
it seeps in somehow.
Right. All right. Well, it sounds like you're providing them with a strong foundation. They certainly have been through a lot, as have you. And it seems as though you have a positive point of view for sure. So I
Thank
applaud
you.
you for all of that. So now, as you are approaching the big 6-0 and you just recently were remarried, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And you're continuing your love for scuba diving and flamingo dancing and traveling, and you are definitely not living, by definition, a smaller life. You are living a bigger one. What are some words of wisdom that you would import to women?
Well, I would say a few things. For starters, not to take everything so seriously, including yourself. Life's not about protecting an image or protecting things even. There's much more to life. All these things are so transitory. I think that there's magic in everything. The beautiful sunrise, a seashell, flowers, or a beautiful, like even with photography, just a beautiful face. And when I do a shoot, I just love my work. You should get lost in the things that make you happy. And sometimes we get bombarded by so many things that just don't matter. And so my advice to even to myself back then, I've been like, what are you doing? Just jump ship, and take care of things that really matter. And you should put yourself first sometimes. And that's not selfish. It's necessary and for your own health. So and sometimes we overdo, feel that we have to, or we've got to do things that we don't feel like doing. You don't have to do anything. And you shouldn't care so much. Be happy.
You mentioned before having some wounds from your childhood, and many of us have grown up with difficult parents and
Mhm.
things that we've had to work through. I
Right.
think when you put them in perspective and you work through them, and it makes a difference.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of that, like, I mean, I could still hear my mother's voice. It's like, what are the neighbors going to think? Or what are the, I just, it's funny because I never really did care. And I've come back full circle to not really caring. I've never really cared, to be honest. You've got to learn to laugh at yourself and laugh at things that people take so seriously. Think about it in a year or two or even five. Will anything really matter that you're doing right this second?
Yeah.
Or what people thought, or, just be kind. I think be kind. There's so many people are not kind.
Yeah.
You can just see it, you just see it, you feel their vibe, and so they're just kind of mean, or they're judging you, or they're thinking whatever. And I think one of the keys is just not to care. Because sometimes, like even inside me, I'm like, why are they being so like not talking to me, or they're ignoring me, or they didn't say hi back, and I'm like, who cares, Deb? They got
So
their own.
when you say not caring, you're really meaning more in the context of it's really not important. People are going to judge me or they're going to say things about me. It's
Right.
it's really almost like I once heard somebody say that what another person thinks of me is really not my business. And I thought that was really
Yes.
kind of cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in that, and it's all this drama and all, and it really doesn't matter. And they might not think anything at all.
Right,
It might be all
exactly.
in your head.
Sometimes it's all in our head, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I've been dying to ask you, like a couple times since we've spoken, is as we all know, when people carry things that you've had to carry for as long as you did, and you've had to make choices and keep moving forward, and all that stress and that vigilance and that hyper awareness that you kind of
Mhm.
had to employ to get where you are today. I have to ask you, like, it's almost like, Deb, how is your blood pressure? How is your nervous system these days?
Yeah.
Because genuinely, I mean, if we are putting on a facade for the outside world and
Mhm.
things are bothering us emotionally and we're not addressing them, it
Mm.
shows up in our bodies. And
Right.
that's been documented many times. And my
Mhm.
message with pillar 3, the importance of mental health and cognitive wellness, and that bi-directional feed between mental health and cognitive wellness. It's so important that we don't sweep things under the carpet, which I don't think that you've done that at all. I think what you've done is you've recognized things and you've put them into a context which allowed you and gave you the strength to keep moving forward. How is your health, your physical health?
My physical health has always been really, really good up until, like, I'd say, when I started working out 2.5 years now. I met my husband now, and he started taking me out to eat, and we would eat and have wine and dessert, and I packed on a lot of weight. Plus, I think I was going through the whole menopause thing, and I gained like between 40 and 50 pounds, and my blood pressure went straight up. It's funny because I was so happy, and so many things like my knees, just everything. I couldn't breathe, and I started getting like severe allergies. It was horrible. Like I went to the doctor. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So I started strength training because up until then I did a lot of Pilates and ballet classes. And flamenco, but I started doing strength training, and I just really changed my diet. And my doctor had to put me on 3 different high blood pressure medications, and
Okay.
I'm off all of them now.
Nice.
Yeah, and so
Wow,
I
what a
didn't.
success story that is. That
Yes, I haven't told I should tell Ashley that, but, and all the blood panel is, like, perfect, and he's like, "Wow, you're like, I can't believe you just really did this," but it's dedication. You gotta get yourself up and go to the gym when you don't feel like it, and I think you get to an age where you really have to watch. You can't just eat and drink, and I would say for me, working out has been so great, and, I walk a lot too. I've been
nice.
doing, an hour in the morning at the beach before I go to her class, and just eating better, cutting out all the candy and sugar. And so for me, before this, I've always been on the thin side, just fit because I've always worked out. My secret, I would say, for that, and just despite all the turmoil, is like I always spend time in the morning in prayer and meditation and before I
Nice.
go to sleep. I've always kept a dream journal, like since I was 18. I write all my dreams down in the morning and I kind of go through them and I think about it because sometimes it's like your subconscious talking to you and you get
Yes.
rid of a lot. You actually solve problems through your dreams. So, meditation, prayer in the morning, in the evenings, writing in my dream book, um, and at the end of the day, like a gratitude thing. I have like this gratitude book and if somebody, a compliment. Oh, Deb, your hair's gorgeous. I write that down. Somebody gave me a beautiful compliment because those are gifts that you get. Those are daily gifts. And if you count all those gifts or blessings and they make you happy.
Oh my
And I
God,
think,
that's wonderful. You and I never discussed this part as, as I was going through and thinking about today's conversation. It's like I
Mhm.
never asked Deb about her blood pressure because you
Yeah.
always seem, very calm and so positive, but sometimes the stress that no one sees on the inside can wreak havoc. But I love what you're doing and thank you so much for sharing that. The journaling of your dreams and being aware. And some people will say, well, I don't have any dreams to journal. Well, if you open up that pathway and you let yourself kind of look for those dreams, they'll appear and you'll
Yes.
be able to journal them like you are. And I love the gratitude and you're doing so many wonderful things.
Thank you.
I guess that's why you belong being a guest on this podcast because you have such a great
Thank you.
message that I would
Thank
love
you.
for the audience to hear and hopefully incorporate some of these things in their
Mhm.
lives.
Thank you. There is a trick to remembering your dreams because
Okay. Oh, please share.
so before you fall asleep, you just say, I'm going to remember my dreams. And it might take a minute, but just have the intention that when you wake up, you'll remember and they fade. They do fade pretty quickly. That's why when you wake up, the first thing you should do is write them down. Like you should have your book and I have a chair next to my bed, so I'll just go and I write them down before I fully wake up. They will fade. Although there's some that stick with you for like I have dreams that for life I remember, but say before you fall asleep, like kind of have that intention as you're dozing
Yeah.
off that I'm going to remember my dreams and you can even ask questions. If you have some kind of issue that you're wrestling with, a mathematical equation in school or anything, you say that you want the answer. And sometimes you get them. I would say most of the time. It just kind of comes out. I've
Awesome.
asked for lottery numbers. I haven't gotten those yet, but
Well, if you do, I think you could probably open up a business. You can sell lottery numbers,
right, right,
guaranteed to make you a
right.
winner. Thank you so
Mm,
much for sharing all of that. That was not planned at all, but I'm glad that you did because they take very little time to do these little things that help us in
they
so
do
many
help.
ways.
Yes, writing helps. And just, meditation, it doesn't have to be the Maharishi TM meditation or anything like this. Meditation could be sitting quiet and listening because I think in those moments between your thoughts, it's where you really truly live. It's who you really are. Your essence comes out and then you're just sitting still and things will come instead of us always doing the talking, all that mind chatter. There's a lot of peace in doing that. It's really healthy. I
I
think it's very
I agree. There's a lot of research on the benefits of meditation and journaling, just
yeah.
forming the letters. It's
Right.
amazing the amount of the different parts of the brain that engage and the
Yeah.
stimulation that you get from that. You're really doing a lot. It's not just the new gym thing that you're doing, which is important for more research is coming out
Right.
about the importance of lifting weights. Women as we get older, to ward off dementia, to build
Right.
bone strength and so on and so forth. But so, yeah, you've got it going on. That's awesome. It's
Thank you.
really, really great. And so, Deb, if for every woman that's listening today could take one thing from your story and everything that you've been through and carry it with her, is there a number one thing you'd like to share? I'd like for women to take something away with them.
Uh, some of your greatest things in life or joys and things haven't happened yet. That always be looking for those things because sometimes we think, "Oh, I'm just an old bag now, like, or whatever."
I'm ready to go out to pasture. At least
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I'm useless. I'm an antique. But you have to stay curious. You have to laugh often. Go see a funny movie instead of something depressing. Love deeply. Just really think of there's so many things to people, friends, and things about your life that you can love and have gratitude for. I think that's so important. Travel, like for me, travel's like I just love travel or just adventure, but getting out of your comfort zone is really important. Travel might be going to Miami. If you live here, it doesn't mean that you have to go to some foreign land. So you have to forgive yourself sometimes because you can beat yourself up. Like, why did I do that?
it's important.
And yeah, it's so important. Start each day knowing that it's a blank new canvas. It's like another beautiful day and it's exciting. Think of it as exciting because it really is. You don't know what could happen that day. All kinds of stuff could happen. So you should wake up each day thinking that, knowing that, not just self-talk like, oh, it's going to be a wonderful day. Like really know that it's a day full of surprises. Like we never know what each day might bring. So
It's true.
I hope it doesn't sound me or
No, I hear everything that you're saying, and I agree with you. There's so many little things that we can do that change our perspective and give us a much more positive outlook. And there's possibilities if we're open to them.
Right.
Whatever it is that we're looking for, they're out there.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many things I've worried about that number one never came to fruition. And there's also research to support that. It's a really high percentage of most of
Mhm.
the things that we worry about, they don't come to fruition. Some of them aren't even logical worries, but we worry in any case.
Yeah.
And if we're safe in the
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
nothing is physically wrong with us. We
Right.
moving forward with mental health intact
Mhm.
and take things in stride. And sometimes just like you said, take a moment, let our brain slow down
Mhm.
and smell the roses type of
Yes.
philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go watch the sunrise. It is so beautiful. I love it. Like I go up there around 5 and then sun comes up sometimes between 6 and 6:30. And it's just so beautiful. It's so quiet. You can see the birds and sometimes you see the dolphins jumping.
Oh,
It's just so
nice.
beautiful. We live in a beautiful place down here. So I think that's something to to appreciate too, not
Yeah.
to take it for granted. Not everybody listening lives down here, but
Right. Well,
wherever
even just nature, just going outside in nature, wherever you may live, and
yeah.
just looking at the sky and just all the
Mhm.
beautiful things in our
Right.
environment, it really
Yes.
takes us from revving high to allowing us to slow down a little bit, which is so
Right.
important.
That's right. Yeah, it
Yeah,
could be a beautiful mountaintop, a meadow, anything, a lake. I mean, anywhere, wherever you are,
exactly.
watching the sunset. Yeah.
Exactly. Deb, I want to thank you so much for being here. And what strikes me most about your story is not what you lost. It is actually what you never lost, which is your spirit, your curiosity, your creativity, your willingness to trust, which is huge, your capacity for wonder. And as children, we naturally notice the world around us. We look at a sunset, we look at a butterfly, oh, look, there's a smile on someone's face.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, many of us stop looking.
Mhm.
We
Right.
become consumed with expectations, responsibilities, and what other people think. But
Mhm.
perhaps one of the greatest gifts in our encore years is realizing that we do not have to retire from wonder. That was actually your quote, and I thought that was great.
Right.
The adventure is not over. Again, your words, life is calling. And maybe that invitation is simply this to stay curious, trust, let go, say yes, and enjoy being alive. So
Right.
before we go, I have a question for you. What do you see as your superpower, Deb?
My gosh, what is my superpower?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a creative brain, so I come up with ideas out of thin air. I don't know if they're always great, but some people seem to like them. My superpower, some kind of creativity. My superpower could be creativity.
So, one more question for my audience. What is your superpower? And if you're not sure or you would like help discovering it, please join us for our upcoming Encore Women's Conversation on Zoom on Tuesday, June 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. If today's conversation resonated with you, please follow Beyond the Glass Slipper on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss an episode. And please share it with a friend. You never know whose life may be touched by a story, a sentence, or an idea heard today. If you are looking for a community and connection with other women embracing their Encore years with intention and purpose, we invite you to join the Encore Women's Circle. We want to hear your story because your story may contain the very words another woman needs to hear to step into her own encore. Your encore is still being written, and remember to stay curious.